Hello, my beautiful people. How we all doing? I hope we all are well. Today we are going to be looking into something that has to do with the foundations of the Igbo language. If you go back in history, a lot of the historical material from a lot of scholars, that is philologists, linguists, ethnographers, and all that, they have constantly posited that the Igbo language and the Igbo culture generally is full of a lot of what you call Hebraisms. Hebraisms are things that things that are related to the Hebrew way of life and all that. And so a lot of people from time immemorial have been looking into the Igbo language to see if they can pick up some of these Hebrew words that found in the language. Some have tried and they were not able to come up with some words. Some were able to come up with a few. And so from our discussion on Twitter a few weeks back about some of the words like this, I had to go back and research and check through, and then I discovered some other words that we not even know we use every day in the Igbo language without knowing that these are actually Hebrew words. Now, to be able to verify these words in both Igbo and Hebrew, we will be looking into the root of these words, these shared words from Hebrew down to Igbo. We will be looking into the root because words exist as coincidences in several languages, but you have to look into the root to be sure that this is the same word across both languages. And so having all this historical data in mind that these words do exist, we've been able to look into the Igbo language and get some of these words like that. And so we'll be discussing some of them on this video very quickly. And so the first one we'll be looking into here on the list is the word Boke. Boke. Any Igbo person that hears that understands what I mean when I say Boke. Now what is interesting is I will let you hear the Hebrew person and see how they use it in their language. So, and then we'll come back and look into the word more. Okay.
Boker Tov. Boker Tov. Good morning.
Now, if you heard very clearly what was pronounced by the Hebrew man in the video you just saw now, he said good morning in Hebrew is Boker Tov. Boker Tov. Now, what we are interested in is the Boker, not the Tov. Now, if you take what he pronounced Boker, what he's actually saying, what Boker actually means is to crack open, to split, to break, to reveal and all that. That is what Boker means, but it is used in the Hebrew language to mean morning, and so they say Boker Tov. But the word Boker actually means cracking or to open something. And then it is very interesting because any Igbo speaker on the surface of the earth can confirm that Boker means exactly the same thing in the Igbo language. It means to crack open, to split, to open, to break forth and all that. It communicates the idea of breaking. It communicates the idea of something, being broken out and all that. So it is actually the same meaning from Hebrew down to the Igbo language. Now, what I also find interesting is that not just the fact that it has the same meaning from Hebrew down to Igbo, the use is also the same, because in Hebrew it is used to refer to morning, and also the bo is used to refer to morning in the Igbo language, you see. And so what you say as Boketov in Igbo, you have maybe a sentence like Chia Bogo. If you want to translate it directly, Boketov in Hebrew actually means good breaking, so to say. I don't know if you understand me. It actually means good break or good breaking. In Igbo, if you say Chia Bogo, you are asking the person, because some of the Igbo greetings are actually questions, asking about the other person's welfare. So when you say Chia Bogo, you are basically asking them, has the day broken? So you find out that both the direct meaning, which is breaking or cracking or opening, is the same in both languages. And so you also find out that the use is the same thing in both languages, used to refer to the morning. So that is just the first word we'll be looking into, and we'll be going quickly into the second one. Now, the second word is the word for no across some Igbo dialects. In Igbo, there are a lot of ways of saying no. There is the more frequent umba. There's also pa. There's also wa. There's also olo. Now, our emphasis is on the word olo because those of the Igbo people who speak Olo do not actually know that that is directly from Hebrew. Now, I will allow you to also see, how it is used in a Hebrew sentence to show you that it actually means no in Hebrew. Just listen to this.
Lo. Lo. No. Oi lo. Oi lo. Oi lo.
And so if you heard what the lady said, she said olo or olo. Olo means actually no in the Hebrew language. Lo is no. Olo, is still no. Olo is used at several communities in Igbo land. If you go to some Igbo, within some Igbo communities, they use olo to mean no. They use olo. That is, verifiable, as you heard the Hebrew lady speaking. Olo is actually used to mean no. Olo, lo, or olo, as the case may be. Now we'll go into the next word. The word we'll be going into next is Anya. Now, the word Anya in Igbo, it means I. It means I. However, when we were discussing about, the Hebrew language, a few weeks ago, somebody brought to our attention on Twitter, Coin Prophet, he brought to our attention that the word for I in Hebrew is Ayin. And the word for I in Igbo is Anya. So it made me, I had to go back and then look into these words to see if there's a relationship. Now, not only did I find out that it is the same word in both languages, I also find out that there are some phrases in Hebrew that is directly the same meaning in Igbo. What do I mean? I will let you hear this Hebrew woman. She's going to say, keep an eye on this or keep watch on this in Hebrew. Now, listen to what she will say. Just listen closely.
How to ask someone to keep an eye on something in Hebrew. Lasim, Ayin. Lasim, Ayin. Lasim is to put or to place. Ayin is eye, so it's almost the same as to keep an eye. Can you lasim ayin on my computer while I use the restroom?
Now, if you listen to what the lady has said, she said Lasim Ayin. Lasim Ayin. Lasim Ayin in Igbo is Lesem Anya. Lesem Anya. There is absolutely no difference between the two. Lasim Ayin in Hebrew, Lesem Anya. Both of them mean what? Keep an eye on this for me. As you've just heard the Hebrew woman say. The same meaning, keep. Lasim there in Hebrew means keep. Lesem means place your sight or place your eyes, on the computer. You see. So I actually went further to break down the word in Hebrew, Lasim, to look into its roots, because I said we'll be looking into the roots of the word also. Now I found out that the sim in that word, Lasim, the sim there is a way of telling the Hebrew person or giving the idea of placement, place here or set it here. Now, when I compared that with one of the Igbo words we have in our language, I found out that the sim in Lasim is actually sem in Igbo language. Sem. Now, if you look at the word lesem in Igbo, she said Lasim in Hebrew. In Igbo, if you say lesem, it communicates the idea of keep your eye also. But there are several other words that same is used exactly the same way it is used in Hebrew. Now, if you talk about words like mesem, in Igbo language, if you tell somebody mesem or mesem yanaro, it means whatever the person has in his hands, he should place it on your body. So you see that the same in both Hebrew and Igbo language communicates the idea of placement, of position. Is a positional request, so to say. And so if you also say a word like fesem, I'm just giving you examples of how this sim has, been used and brought down from the Hebrew language down to the Igbo language. Now, if you say something like fesem to any Igbo person, the person, whatever he has in hand, actually, he will take it and spray on you. Fesem, once you tell any Igbo person, if he has a liquid in his hand, you tell them fesemi ya ijinaka. You have told the person, take whatever is in your hand and spray on me. The direct translation of fesemu is fly onto me. Of course, in English, you represent it as spray whatever you have onto me. The sem there communicates to the person that you want it on, on your body, on your person, So you see that the word, the same has maintained its usage, the same usage. This is why we say we should look into the roots. When you look into the root of these words, then you see that they're actually the same thing in both languages. So you see that it's not actually a coincidence. It's the same use of both words, the same use, the same idea, positional, or it communicates the idea of a positional. Fix it here, place it here. Now we go to the next word. Now the next word we have here is a word that we use in everyday communication in Igbo. Now when I discovered the meaning of this word, I developed a special regard for the word. Now the word I have in mind is Anochi. It's pronounced Anochi in Igbo. Anochi. Now when I looked into the history of this word, the first thing I found out about this word is that it is actually from the Egyptian language. It was taken from the Egyptian language into Hebrew, and from Hebrew down to Igbo. Now, across these three languages, or let me say from the Hebrew down to Igbo, it has maintained its usage. What do I mean by that? Anochi, which is actually pronounced Anochi, Anochi in Hebrew, Anochi. In Igbo, you have Anochi or Anohi also. There are people who pronounce it Anohi, among the Igbo people. So, the word in Hebrew is used to mean I myself. It is used to mean I myself, both in Hebrew and in Egyptian. It means I myself. Now, when you break it down and go into, when you check how the name is used in inference, then you begin to understand what I mean, that it is actually carried from Hebrew down to Igbo. The inferred use talks about consider no other. The word in inference means consider no other. It means I and I alone. In Hebrew, I'm telling you, in Hebrew and Egyptian, it means I, myself. It means I and I alone. It means consider no other. Now, what is interesting is that when you bring it down to the Igbo language, it also means, depending on context, it also means consider no other. Anochi. Anochi. Depending on the context you use it in Igbo language, also means consider no other. However, the most common usage of the word Anochi in Igbo is used to mean do not replace. If you ask any Igbo person on the surface of the earth that knows the Igbo language well, you ask them what is Anochi, they will tell you do not replace. Now you see that consider no other as it is used in Hebrew, and also do not replace. You will see that it is two sides of one coin. It's just two different ways of representing the same idea. You see that the meaning, the use of the word, has stayed the same from Hebrew down to Igbo, and they use it, every day. It's an everyday word among the Igbo people. Now, the next word we are going to look into is the word for rise or get up. Now, before we look into this word in both Hebrew and Igbo, I would like you to listen to this Hebrew woman so that you see how it is pronounced. Get up. Get up in Hebrew. Just listen to her. It's a very short video.
How to say get up in Hebrew. If you are addressing male, kum. Kum. If you are addressing female, kumi. Kumi. Kumi.
If you listen very carefully to what the woman has said, she said that the word for get up, when you want to tell people to get up, to rise and all that, it is the word kum or kumi, depending on the gender you are talking to. It is kum or kumi. Now, what is very interesting is that the Igbo word for get up is kuni. Kuni. The M in kumi in Hebrew just changes to an N in Igbo. And so what she calls kumi becomes kuni N. Kuni in Igbo language. The same meaning. It means to get up, it means to rise, it means to, it's used to motivate people to get up and do something. Kunienu. You say kunienu for more force. You see. And when you want to say maybe something like maybe has he woken up or has he gotten up, you say okunigo. Okunigo. And then if you want to respond that he hasn't gotten up, you say okunibe. So kuni, kuni, kuni in Igbo, and kumi, kumi in Hebrew. Kumi, kuni, kumi. The same word, the same usage, it's just interesting. Now, the next word we'll be looking at is the word for cost, asking about the cost of an item. Now, this word was brought to us by Coin Prophet also on Twitter when we were discussing weeks ago. Now, before I talk about the word, let me allow you listen to this Hebrew man. So you will hear her ask in Hebrew, what is the cost? Just listen to what she says.
How much does it cost? In Hebrew, kama ze ole, kama ze ole, kama ze ole.
If you listen carefully to what the Hebrew woman said, she said kama ze ole. Kama ze ole is the way they ask what is the cost in Hebrew. Now, our focus is on the word ole. Ole is the word for cost. Now, that word has been carried directly down to the Igbo language as ole also. It is the word we use whenever we are doing transactions in the business. If you listen to, if you go into an Igbo shop or you move into an Igbo market, you will hear people say ole in all they are saying. Ole, one, a variation, one. So it is interesting because the word has retained its meaning and its usage. In Hebrew, you want to say what is the cost, you say kamazole. And then in Igbo, you say something along the lines of obwegole. There are several ways of representing it, but one of the ways is obwegole. Ole. In both languages, the same thing, the same pronunciation. Even in both sentences in Hebrew and Igbo, it takes the same placement. It comes at the very last. So it's just very interesting. This is the same thing. The same thing, the same pronunciation, the same usage. Ole. Now, there are several words like this that will be able to come across. It's not every word that we are going to talk about on this particular recording, but there are other words like that. The word for up, brought to our attention by at Ukwe1 on Twitter, at Ukwe1. Now, he brought to our attention that the word for up, for ascended, for elevation, even for God or divinity, the word is Eli. Eli in Hebrew. I will let you listen to how it is pronounced before I continue.
Eli, Eli, Eli.
Now that you've listened to how it's pronounced, you can see that it's pronounced like it sounds like something you will hear anywhere in Igbo land. Eli. Eli is the way it is pronounced. When you talk about up, elevated, when you talk about divinity, God, or all that, the word is Eli. Now, it's actually interesting because when you come down to the Igbo languages, it's the same thing. Elu. Elu. When you talk about high, when you talk about elevated, when you talk about divinity, God, and all that, Elu is the word. You can ask any Igbo person walking on the surface of this earth, and they will confirm that to you. The same pronunciation, the same usage, and basically the same thing. So it's just interesting. So the other words like that, there is the word for home. The word for home in Hebrew is beit. Beit. You just when you look at that word as an Igbo person, you just remove the T and you see that it is the word in Igbo. In Igbo, it is be or be. In Hebrew, it is beit or bet. It's just an extra T that is added to the word. So when you drop the T, you get the exact thing. In Igbo also, both of the words mean home. It's used to talk about home. I want to say maybe your home, I'll say begi. You want to say my home, you will say bemo. And if you want to say our home, we say bani in Hebrew. So both languages, same usages. There are others like that, but we'll just stop today. So these are things that we're able to come about when we looked into both language. You can go through all the words I gave you here, check their meanings, and confirm that all I told you is correct. You will discover that for yourself. Okay, this is where I'm going to stop the recording. I'll tell you bye-bye for now. Thank you for listening.